What up, everybody, and welcome. This is the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Tien. Joining me, as always, tonight, the CEO of Hedge Better Industries, Justin Fine. We have an awesome episode planned tonight. Justin, I am so excited to talk not only about the Patriots, but also about everything happening around the NFL tonight. This is the place to be. 1 hour commercial free on the Pats, on everything going on around the league. What is going on, Justin? How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. You always, there's this old saying, right? That football really doesn't get started till around Thanksgiving time. And we're here now, right? You can see the league starting to shape up. A lot of narratives coming to the forefront. A lot of teams, picking things up, falling behind. Like there's just a lot of change, a lot of good stuff going on in the league right now. Plenty to talk about, a lot of exciting stuff, and a very interesting, I think, Patriots weekend to recap.
Absolutely. An interesting Patriots game, but so much all around the NFL to talk about. And I was lucky, just because of scheduling and the fact that I'm a season ticket holder, I haven't had a lot of opportunities to just lock myself in my basement and watch the Patriots and keep an eye on the red zone. Yeah. And I was finally able to do that this week. And this was an amazing week to just be holed up in front of the television, one eye on the Pats, one eye on everything happening around the league. It was a terrific week, Justin.
Yeah. Awesome week of football. And I think like we said, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of really interesting stuff shaping up around the NFL right now. AFC, NFC, a lot of teams making some moves, a lot of things happening from top to bottom.
Let's get to it. Let's start, as always, in Foxborough. And this is what I want to kick it off with. I think the huge story right now in Foxborough very clearly is the injury situation. And before we even get to the game, we have to talk, it's often said football is a war of attrition. The Patriots have, by and large to this point, really avoided major injuries, but when it rains, it pours. Yeah. And right now you have a situation where they lost Milton Williams 2 weeks ago. And then this week in Cincinnati, really for various points in this game, they lost 3 of their 5 starting linemen. Yeah. 2 of them carted off, and you're thinking the absolute worst. And I'm just like, how many times can I ever remember 2 players being carted off the field and now both of them end up having season-ending injuries? Yeah. I mean, we all feared the worst. All the news right now is positive. Will Campbell, rookie left tackle, now has a left MCL strain. That's, I think, best case scenario given what we saw with him. And then, of course, Jarrett Wilson, the rookie, he has an ankle sprain, supposedly not too severe. Again, best case scenario with him. The Patriots sound like they may have dodged a bullet, but both of these guys, Justin, might not be back for a couple weeks. How much is this going to affect the team?
I think it's going to affect the team a lot in these couple of weeks that they're missing them. But, the fortunate thing is that the Patriots have put themselves in a position right now, at least I think, that as long as they don't completely collapse in the next 4 games, right? Like they could go 2-2, and because they've set themselves up here at 10-2 atop the AFC, they're really built to kind of weather this storm right now. You know what I mean? Like if you can get past the Giants, now that you beat the Bengals, and say you drop 2 games to the Bills and the Ravens, down these 3 key players, you're still sitting in a really good spot. So I think it's going to be a huge impact on them for the time that they're gone. But I think that they've set themselves up well to weather the storm.
I agree with that. And first of all, I think they're going to be fine. I've heard a lot of doom and gloom the last few days on the radio, talking to other fans. This team's going to be fine. And I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why I think they're going to be fine. Number one is they still have a cupcake schedule. And there's really only, I'd say, 2 really difficult games left on this schedule. Agreed. They could totally fall apart, and they're still going to win 3 out of these last 5 games, and end up with 13 wins. Yes. So that's a huge check mark in the favor. The second reason is I don't think Vidarian Lowe and Ben Brown, the replacements, are as bad as everyone else does. I think these guys are okay. If you look across the NFL at what most teams have for line depth, I can guarantee you most teams don't have sixth and seventh and eighth linemen that have the kind of experience Lowe and Brown have. I know I'm not saying Valerian Lowe is Tony Baselli, but I'm saying he's better than we think he is. And this dovetails into my third reason why I think they're going to be okay, because their coaching is so much better this year than it was last year. Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel are going to know how to scheme around this and put these guys in the best possible position and coach them up. And the reason Lowe looked so bad last year, the reason Ben Brown looked so bad at times last year, is because Gerard Mayo didn't know what to do with them. I think now that they have coaches that know what to do with them, they're going to be, I think they'll be okay. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hope so. I just think, look, when you're going against this Bills team who's looking pretty good right now, Ravens, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, you'd like to be able to do it at full strength, right? And that includes, your two linemen in a guy like Milton Williams, who you really need to be able to clog up the middle against arguably two of the best rushing teams in the NFL. So, I do think it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, but to your point, right, I don't think they're going to totally collapse. I still expect them to go out there and win the winnable games, right? I expect them to beat the Giants. I expect them to beat the Jets. I expect them to beat the Dolphins. I just think the Bills in the Ravens game is going to be a little bit harder than it would have, if they were full staff. But that goes without saying, right? When you lose three starters, you're obviously not in the same position you would be if you had them, right? So that's expected.
I'll say this, Justin, if you're talking about the Bills and the Ravens game, I am way more worried about the Milton Williams injury than I am the two offensive line injuries. I think that's going to be a much bigger hole to fill.
I totally agree. And I mean, look, you kind of saw that this weekend on, against the Bengals. Chase Brown got going 100%. A little bit. And this rush defense just didn't look, the way they looked before. And again, with the Bills and the Ravens, not only do you have two really good backs in Derrick Henry and James Cook, but you have arguably the two best rushing quarterbacks, dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. So, that run game defense, that's what has really gotten you this so far, that you've been able to kind of lean on and rely on. I'm really curious what's going to happen when you go up against those two teams without a guy like Milton Williams.
Yeah, and I mean this run defense was literally one run away from setting an NFL record, right, for run defense through the first 11 games.
Right.
You take Milton Williams out of the equation, all of a sudden, I think Chase Brown averaged over 5 yards a carry on Sunday, and everything just looked totally different. Yep. So when you look at the opposition, you've got James Cook, you've got Derrick Henry. Those aren't the best matchups for a team that might be missing their best run stopper. And that's what worries me about those matchups.
Yeah. The other thing too, and I didn't follow up on this, but I know Kyrus Tonga, who, I kind of expected to plug into. One. Right. What is the extent of his injury? Is he going to be out for, I don't
think he's going to be out for quite that long, but I think it's definitely possible he might miss the Buffalo game.
Right. I mean, and you know what? That was the guy that I think we were expecting to come in and plug that hole. So, I mean, look, those are some big losses for sure.
I was a little disappointed with Christian Barmore on Sunday, to be honest with you, Justin, because I thought he would show out better. I mean, to me, I thought the Patriots had two number one defensive linemen, like two kind of elite level interior guys. And, with Williams out, Christian Barmore did not look like an elite interior lineman on Sunday.
No. Yeah. He definitely didn't look, I think, like we had hoped he would. I'm hoping, maybe that was kind of a fluke. Who knows? I look, at the end of the day, I think too, it's one of those things where, you rely on that guy in this, to your left or to your right, all season, they kind of worked as a tandem. So that's his first game without him. So I think maybe it was just kind of an adjustment, having to bear the full brunt of the load, himself.
Because I would say that Christian Barmore is one of the 10 or 15 best interior linemen in the NFL in of himself.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
So if you should be able to still be a pretty damn good run defense with just him in there. Yeah, no,
you totally should. But look, I mean, you flip that statement and you say, well, you lose one of the best, linemen in the NFL, you're going to take a hit, right? So I think both things are true. I think they should still be okay with Christian Barmore, but when you lose a guy like Milton Williams, I think he's the highest paid defensive lineman of all time, right? Like you clearly a big piece. So, you can't expect to see no drop off, I guess,
Yeah. And like, look, we've said it all season. Like Williams was a hit. Williams
Right.
was the best free agent signing of the class. Like, you can spend a ton of money in free agency.
Right.
And the player can still suck.
Totally.
I mean, we've certainly seen that in New England, unless we remember the 2021 free agent class, right?
Yeah.
But this was a case where they spent the money on this guy, and he's been a absolute grand slam so far.
Yeah, he has. He's been worth every penny. So you know what? Look, I know these, like we said, these injuries are going to be tough. It's not the end of the world. And at the end of the day, we really got to be thanking our lucky stars that with all three of these guys, we're going to have them back, if not by the end of the season, definitely by the playoffs. And now I would argue too that, especially depending on how long these guys are out and the severity of the injuries, before getting the number 1 seed and earning that round 1 bye was a luxury. Now you could argue it might even be not a necessity, but very important in terms of, your team being able to come back at full strength and perform.
Well, what I'll say about this, Justin, is that they have a bye coming up in 2 weeks. Right. They have their bye. They still haven't had their bye, and it's going to come at a huge time for this team. In fact, I believe there is a stretch where they are technically only going to play 2 games in 30 days. All right. Which is kind of a crazy thing, or something like that. 3 games in 30 days. It's something like that. But they're going to get the opportunity to rest. Do not be surprised if you see Will Campbell on the field in that Buffalo game. An MCL strain is a very funny injury. It can have a tremendous variability. It can be minor.
Yeah.
Will Campbell is the kind of kid that wants to be out on the field and is willing to work to be out on the field. And you can't underestimate that in a soft tissue injury like this. So do not be surprised if Will Campbell is back for that Buffalo game.
Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think him or Wilson were officially placed on IR yet.
Nope.
Right?
Neither one was.
So,
and I think if you're Vrabel, you accept the fact they're probably going to miss the Giants game, and then you've got to bye, and it's realistic. Both those guys could be back for that Buffalo game in 3 weeks. It's totally possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the game on Sunday, Justin. This is my take from this game, and I know a lot of people were kind of doom and gloom about this game. It was definitely a super choppy game. It was not the Patriots' best game. I think you could say a lot went wrong. If not everything went wrong, a lot went wrong, from a pick 6 by Drake May. Drake May looking like absolute garbage at points in this game. Critical injuries on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
A lot of just bad breaks, a couple really poorly timed penalties. I mean, you make a list. There was a lot that went wrong.
Yep.
They still found a way to win. They're still 10-2.
Yep.
Let's not set the bar too high for this New England Patriots team. I think even with the injuries, even with the challenges, okay, in a wide open AFC, I look around and every one of these competitor teams has a similar list of limitations, a similar list of holes, a similar list of injuries. I still like where this Patriots team is headed. I think they will be fine. And I'm not going to set the bar so high that I'm disappointed that they didn't look good enough, because I think that's crazy coming off 2 4-win seasons. The bottom line is they're 10-2. The conference is wide open, and they still have a great shot.
They do have a great shot. I mean, look, when it comes down to it, like, we can actually say that this team hasn't lost a game in 2 months, right? Like, they haven't lost a game since September,
amazing.
Which is a wild feat, not only for just any NFL team to say, but for a team that went, 4-win team the last 2 seasons, that even coming into this year, people didn't have really high expectations, if any expectations at all. So, they've blown all the expectations out of the water, as far as I'm concerned at this point. And not only that, but we've seen some teams in the NFL have some really bad losses. Like you look at what happened with the Bills and the Dolphins a few weeks ago. Packers losing to some bad, like some really good teams have had some really bad losses this season. And so for the Patriots to just not look their best and fight through adversity and find ways to win, it's like, look, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I forget exactly who it was against, but we talked about this and we said, look, not all the wins are going to be pretty. Not all the games are going to be pretty. It's tough to win a game. It's tough to win games in the NFL. So that's fine. Things went against you. It was sloppy. You had injuries. You still found ways to win. That to me is the most important part. You got a tough, resilient team that's winning games even when they're not at their best.
I absolutely agree. But I mean, they're winning these games, and it's like every other, as you said, every other team that they're competing with, every other team in this league. I mean, look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did on Sunday. They're supposed to be the best team in the NFL, right? We would have said going into Sunday, the Eagles are the best team in the NFL.
Yep.
They went on the road against a sub 500 team and lost the game that they had a 21-point lead in.
Right.
I still think the Eagles, we'll get to this when we get to around the league. I think the Eagles are very much going to be in it when it counts, but all these teams drop games left and right when you don't expect. I mean, you look at Buffalo, right, and what they did. So I'm not going to ding the Patriots because when they have their bad day, they're still finding a way to win. To me, I say that's a positive. Now, I will say, Justin, that I do feel like really for the last month, I haven't really felt like I've seen this team play their best.
Agreed.
Maybe in Tampa, but not in Atlanta, not against the Jets, and not on Sunday. So for Monday night against the Giants, I know there's going to be injuries. I am looking to see, can they look smooth, especially on offense, because I feel like it's been a little choppy on that side of the ball.
Yeah, look, so that actually, that brings me to my point, about this offense, which is the fact that, look, I think Drake May's been awesome this season. He's largely the reason why we've been as successful as we've been. To the point where he's a top 3, top 5 MVP candidate. But with that being said, we've yet to see Drake May throw for 300 yards, right? And we've and I believe only once, maybe twice, but I think only once we've seen him come out and throw for 3 touchdowns. I'm still waiting.
And never 4.
I'm still waiting for, as this season goes on, to have that signature Drake May breakout game, right? Not just play really well, but a night where he comes out, throws for 303, 304, and just makes an absolute statement, right? And it's going to be tough against some of the teams coming up on their schedule. The Bills and Ravens. That's going to be tough teams to do it against. But nevertheless, they got 5 games left on this schedule, and I want to see May continue to take steps forward and not plateau.
I mean, I'll be watching Drake May very closely on Monday night, Justin. I really will, because I completely agree with what you just said. And look, I've said it before. We'll get to this. It's hard to call Drake May the MVP right now in my book because he hasn't had that kind of game, even though he has been excellent. I mean, you look at what Stafford is doing. I want to see a Drake May game on Monday night. I want to see a game where May throws for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns and no turnovers. And this offense just looks really smooth and crisp, because I don't feel like I've seen that in a long time. I haven't seen it at all, actually. I
totally agree. And look, you got a catch 22, I think, coming up on Monday, because he's going up against what is, been a weaker Giant secondary this entire season, but what we would consider to be I would say a top tier defensive front 7, right? They got a pretty good pass rushing unit. You look at some of the guys on that side of the ball, and you just lost, 2 of your starting linemen. So there's an opportunity. There's a world where Drake May is under some pressure on Monday night, and that Giants defensive line is getting after the quarterback. But he's going to have the opportunity, because again, that Giants, if he can hang in the pocket, if that line gives him a little bit of time, he's going up against what I would say is a bottom 5 secondary in the NFL.
I mean, you might have to go back a long time to find a game where you felt like Drake May was consistently good throughout the whole game. And I'm looking back at the schedule. I'm looking maybe at that Titans game, but even that in the second half, you might have to go back to the Bills or the Panthers game to find a game where Drake May has put 2 good halves together of football.
Yeah. And you know what? I was hoping that Jets game that we went to might have been it. Right now, obviously the team opted, which I think was smart, to keep the Henderson train going, right? They obviously, used it to continue the Henderson breakout, furthering his success in the Tampa game, getting him 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. But that was another opportunity for Drake May to come out against a weak unit and just totally just show out, right? But I agree. I'm looking to see a dominant from start to finish Drake May game where it's not even going to be about the outcome for me. Like it's like if Drake May goes out against like an offense like the Bills or an offense like the Ravens, in like you said, throws for 300 plus, 3-4 passing touchdowns, and they lose a 41-38 shootout, like it's not, that's like, to me, it's not even about the result. It's about seeing Drake May go out and have that performance and try to put the team on his back.
I agree. And I was hopeful that we would see that this past Sunday, because all we've heard all season is how historically bad the Bengals defense was.
Yes.
And let's face it, like the reality was the Patriots had a hard time at times moving the ball and scoring. They certainly had a very hard time in the red zone. So, I mean, that is a little concerning when you think about it. Like everyone's throwing for 300 yards against this Bengals defense, and the Patriots at times really struggled.
Yeah. And you know what? You mentioned this the other day when we were watching the game.
Yeah. But I was just going to bring this up.
Are you getting to the play calling?
No, go ahead. Something else. Go for it.
Okay. So we've texted back and forth about this, almost throughout the entire season about the play calling at times. Right. And I wonder if the plateauing can be attributed a little bit to the play calling, because to me, I want to see them like truly unleash Drake and give him the ability to go out and have one of those games. They get a little too conservative at times. They pack it in sometimes when I think they should be full throttle.
Yep.
And I'd like to see them be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to the play calling and letting Drake really take over a game.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that was a criticism of Vrabel in Tennessee, frankly, was that he was similar to that. So I agree with that. I will also say, and another factor into why I may not be playing well, and I brought this up last week as well, and I think you're going to see this, is I do think the book is out a little bit on May, and maybe you could say this whole offense. And like, have you noticed the big plays downfield are a little bit drying up? Like he's not really hitting the last few weeks as many of those big plays. And I think teams know how talented he is as a downfield passer and a deep ball passer now. And they're not going to give that up to them. They're going to make him, pick nickel and dime them down the field. And that might be a little harder for him. But I think that is a part of it. I think the book is out a little on May, and as we've seen so many times with young quarterbacks, it's going to really come down to how he responds to that. Once they get some film on a guy and they see what he can and can't do, sometimes, defensive coordinators adapt, and it's up to these young players to adapt again, and to show that they have skills that they can overcome that. And that's really, I think, where we are right now with Drake.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Look, if I was a defensive coordinator, I would say, hey, the number one goal this week is we're taking away the home run ball. We're not letting them throw that deep shot that's been so deadly for them all year. And we're going to make them. We're going to make them beat us, death by a million paper cuts at this point. We're going to make them run it on us. We're going to make them dink and dunk it over the middle, but we're not going to get beat deep over the top. And after he's proven that he's one of the best, if not the best, deep ball thrower in the league. And what's a smart defensive coordinator going to do? They're going to say, "Well, we're going to take away potentially his best ability." So and
think about this too. And this is going to be the next thing I brought up, and it segues perfectly into it, which is that this team is a bad red zone offense, and I don't think that's Drake May's fault at all. I just think it's a reflection of really the fact that they still don't have great talent, frankly, in a lot of different ways, and they can't run the ball. But it's like, if you're a defensive coordinator, right, you play the long game and you try to get this team to settle for field goals, right? And you make them work it down the field, and then you give them 3 instead of 7, instead of giving those big explosive plays and knowing that they have trouble in the red zone.
Well, it's funny because for the longest time, our mantra here on that side of the ball was bend, don't break. Right. We were a bend, don't break defense, a bend, don't break team. I think that's exactly like what you're saying, what other defenses are doing now. They're saying, hey, force them into playing small ball. We'll take 3 if it comes down to it,
Exactly. And like, I think they have some okay weapons, but who's like the go-to guy, who's the Justin Jefferson, who's the Jamar Chase in the red zone that you really fear if you're a defensive coordinator? I mean, when you're going from 20 to 20, I think it's easy for Josh McDaniels to scheme guys open. I feel like that gets much harder inside the red zone, inside the 10.
Yeah.
There's a lot less space down there. And I think that this team has struggled pretty consistently in the red zone all season long. So if you're a defensive coordinator, you're just like, we're just not going to give up anything deep, and we'll take our chances.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So but you know what? Look, like we've said, what's gotten them to this point all year is hopefully what can get them out of this rut and reverse that, right? And that's the fact that they got good coaching in good quarterback play. So I'm hoping that, you know, we can see them make the appropriate adjustments and fix that. And I'm confident that they can, you know, to be honest.
What did you think about the play calling in the red zone on Sunday, Justin?
I mean, I didn't love it. I definitely didn't love it. You know, but it's tough when, you know, you can't run the ball a couple of yards and get yourself into the end zone. But I think at that point you gotta be a little bit more creative. You know what I mean? I mean, look, even going back to that Tampa game, you know, that fourth down play after they ran it right up the middle twice and failed, and then they threw that like fade pass to Diggs, and we were sitting there going, yes. I hate that play call, right? It's like, I don't like the play calling.
Diggs bailed them out.
Diggs bailed them out. I don't like the play calling in the red zone. So it's like, as much as they're not able to find that consistent success, I also think they got to get away from just running it right up the gut twice and then, you know, waiting for a receiver to bail them out on a fade route in the corner of the end zone. Like that's not the success recipe for success for this team.
Well, that ties into two things, right? One is the fact that the coaching, because you know, if you don't have that kind of team, stop forcing it because it's not working. Right. And number two is, I mean, the run blocking has been a consistent issue with this team all year.
Yes.
And as much as we talk about the protection of May and that being the focus, they've been better at protecting May than they have at run blocking. I mean, they're not a good run blocking line. And when you look at the struggles in the red zone, I think that correlates a lot. I mean, how many chances did they have from the 1 yard line on Sunday? And it's like, the running, you know, Ramondre Stevenson, Drake May, Henderson, they all had opportunities to get the ball over the goal line. None of them could because the blocking wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, this is where, you know, I'd really like to see, you know, some teams, they got a guy, you got like a Derrick Henry or you got like a Jonathan Taylor, a guy that can just bulldoze his way and muscle his way into the end zone. And this is where you're kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage of the Patriots, because as much as I think Henderson's got some power and some pop and he can be explosive, you know, we've yet to kind of see him run somebody over in the end zone and just be like a force on the goal line, right? And then Ramondre, I mean, again, we've said it time and time again, the guy is just mediocrity to the T. And I don't even want the ball in his hands on the goal line. So, you know, they're pigeonholed a little bit.
They're completely pigeonholed. And, you know, it showed, you know, and that's why, to be honest, I texted you this on Sunday, like they went for it 2 times on 4th and 1 on 2 separate drives. The first time they went for it, I didn't have a problem with it and they didn't get it. And that was fine. The second time that they went for that 4th and 1, that was a huge mistake by Vrabel. That was after they had 8 plays, by the way, because of a penalty to get it in, and they couldn't get in. At some point, you have to just cut your losses and take the 3. I thought that was a huge mistake.
Yeah, well, look, I do like that this team has been more aggressive, right? They're kind of adapting to that like new age philosophy of you know, going for it on 4th more and being riskier and playing the analytics and taking the chances. So it's like, you know what, look, that's one of those things where it's great when it works out. When it doesn't work out, we're sitting here talking about, you know, how sometimes they gotta settle and take the 3. I think I'd like to see them try to do a little bit better of striking that healthy balance, right? Where they can still be aggressive, but also be smart when things aren't working out well for them. You know what I mean? And that I think would have been a perfect example of it.
Yeah, but you know what, Justin? Like, you can talk about analytics, and I agree with you. I love the aggressive approach generally speaking, but you also have to read the game.
Yeah.
And at that point in the game, you know, the way this team had struggled to get it in, they had so many plays from the 1 yard line that they were unable to move the ball. It was a huge problem. I think sometimes you have to just, okay, the analytics say this, but in this particular situation, I don't think it applies. Take the easy 3. Take the easy 3 in the full 7-point lead.
Yeah. No, I look, I don't really disagree with that. Again, especially, when you're kind of, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that was after at least one of the injuries, if not both. Right?
I believe it was after the Campbell injury.
Yeah. So I mean, look, when your offensive line is beaten up a little bit at that point, and the momentum's not exactly in your favor, I agree. That's not the worst time to take the 3.
But this kind of brings me to my final take about this game before we move to around the league, which is that I thought this was Vrabel's worst game as a coach since week 1, and McDaniels too. I thought this was the worst job they did in many different ways. I thought the game plan was poor. The team was not focused, which I think does fall back a little bit to the head coach. At the start of the game, I thought they came out flat. I thought they came out unprepared off the mini bye. And then just like everything they did schematically, everything they did in terms of decisions, a lot of it kind of blew up in their face. So, I mean, I'm not saying it was a badly coached game. I still think Vrabel is a very good coach, but I just think on Sunday, this was really his worst coaching job since week 1 against the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate you for saying that. And, the other thing I think that kind of speaks to that is the fact that, we're continuing, we got 5 games, 6 weeks, 5 games left in the season. And we're continuing to talk about this team coming out with the slow start, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, look, I want to see this team come out firing. I want to see this defense come out firing. I want to see this offense come out clicking. Like, yeah, they've been a really good second half team. But, we've talked about this against some of the better teams in this league, especially once you get to the playoffs. You're not going to be able to just rely on a good second half. Like, you're going to have to start strong. And it's something we really haven't seen too much of from this team almost all season.
1,000%, Justin. And I'll go one further. If Marcus Jones, if Joe Flacco doesn't give Marcus Jones a free touchdown, the way that they came out in this game, they probably do lose this game.
Yeah. I mean, look, we said this a few weeks ago. This had trap game written all over it. And
yes, you said it.
Well, but it was, right? It turned out, I mean, yes, they wound up winning, but it really did have all the makings of a trap game. And like you said, that Marcus Jones interception, by the way, watching that in real time, I can't, like, he saw that coming even before Flacco knew that he was going to throw. I mean, 100%. Sitting there watching that on the screen, I can't believe Flacco decided to throw it. This is like
it was terrible quarterback play because the guy was open like literally 2 full seconds before that, which is an eternity in the NFL.
Exactly.
Flacco was like a full 2 seconds late.
Yes,
I couldn't believe, because by the time he threw it, you could see Marcus Jones
was already breaking. He was already beelining right
breaking.
For it. Yeah, so we caught a lucky break, but that had trap game written all over it. And frankly, the Patriots are lucky to make it out of there with a win. But you know what? Look, a win's a win. I'll take it. But I think, it's apparent from what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes that this team has some stuff that they're going to need to clean up if they want to be worthy of that number 1 seed and if they want a real shot to beat some of these good teams.
I'll put it this way, Justin. Like, again, look across the league. Good teams, especially on the road, are playing bad games and losing all the time.
Totally.
So if this was their egg, then I'm totally impressed by the fact that they laid a complete egg and still found a way to win the game. If this becomes a trend or a pattern, and they do this again against the Giants, and they do this again in some of the upcoming weeks, then I think it's time to sound the alarm a little. But right now, I'm taking it as a positive, because I think that they played a lousy game, came out flat, got really lucky. Joe Burrow didn't play, by the way, because I think if Burrow played, they probably lose this game.
Yep.
Jamar Chase played, they probably lose this game.
Yep.
Got really lucky and somehow found a way to win. So for now, I'm calling it a positive. In 3 weeks, if they come out and they do this 2 more times, I'm going to have a very different take.
100%. And I'll before we move on, the last thing I'll say is, going into Monday night against this Giants team, I feel like it's equally trappy. And I say that for a few reasons. Yep. I think, Jackson Dart, all signs are pointing that he should be back and playing. He's shown to be dangerous at times, right? He's shown to be a good young quarterback who's really playing like he's got nothing to lose at this point, right? That whole Giants team is free rolling right now. They have nothing to lose. Like, Jackson Dart can go out there and just try to sling the ball, right? So that to me is, can always be a little scary. And then the second thing too is, we've talked about that Giants front seven, particularly that defensive line, very talented. They can get after the quarterback, against with the beat up offensive line, the Giants are going to come out with nothing to lose and try to put the pressure on Drake May right away. And so the Patriots have to be very careful with this.
It's funny because we record on Tuesday, and so many times my opinion about a game changes from Tuesday to Saturday. For example, last week I came on this show and I said I love the Patriots. By the time Sunday came around, I was like, I'm not touching those 7.5 points with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
Right now, I just feel like the Patriots are I'm going to trust that Mike Vrabel is going to take what happened in Cincinnati on Sunday and spin it into a positive and get this team to put their best foot forward on Monday night. I think they have a little bit to prove after the way they played in Cincinnati, and I think they will prove it. I like this. I like the Patriots. I like Drake May to have a bounce back game. I know there'll be a few injuries, but I do like the Patriots in this game. I know the Giants are hot, but I feel like the Giants, they fired their defensive coordinator this week. They lost another heartbreaker. The quarterback's coming off an injury. I don't know. I just have a feeling the Patriots are going to steamroll them.
I hope so. I really do. I hope so. Like I said, a good defensive line against a beat up O-line and a talented young quarterback that's got nothing to lose just gives me a little bit of pause for concern. Let's say that. I'm not expecting the Patriots to lose.
The one thing I will say is, like, you're the Patriots, you come out in this game, you talk about being aggressive as a coaching staff, come out and be aggressive because you want to get a 14-0 lead and you want this Giants team to quit. Right. Yes. They're 2-9 or so, whatever the hell it is.
And if they do come out and get a 14-0 lead, I don't want to see them pack it in and start running the ball up the middle. No. Like, I want to see them like foot on pedal to the metal, throttle down, full speed ahead all game, all 4 quarters. I don't care if they got a 2-3 score lead. And this should be a Drake 1000%. May, like you said, this should be a Drake May signature
coming out
game.
Party.
Yeah.
Coming out party. A signature game for Drake May and a win where, like, you don't want to, for example, fall down 10-0 like you did this week and give this Giants team hope. Like, come in, deliver that knockout blow in the first round. Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas. Go in there and deliver the knockout blow in the first round. Don't let him hang around until the 8th round and let him get some confidence. That is exactly what you don't want to do. The Pats need to be aggressive and knock this Giants team out in the first round.
Totally.
Okay, man. You anything else you want to add, or are we going to move to around the league?
Yeah,
I'm so pumped for around the league today. There's so much great stuff to talk about. I got victory laps. I got medicine to take. I got all kinds of good stuff. Do you have anything you want to start with?
Well, I mean, I'll definitely.
I think you have some medicine to take.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got some medicine to take because, maybe let me say I'm trying to think about last night. Maybe I get some medicine to take about last night, but actually,
I can tell you.
Well, okay,
you have medicine to take on the 49ers.
Yeah, I do. I get some medicine to take on the 49ers. I thought the 49ers window would close. I thought this was going to be a down year for them, and everything was going to fall apart. And despite some bad injuries, they lost Fred Warner for the season. They lost Bosa for the season. They've been without Brock Purdy most of the year. They still find themselves, I believe, 8-4, and in a good position to make the playoffs. So they're still a dangerous team. And then I'll also take medicine going back to the beginning of the year, the JJ McCarthy take that I had, saying that by the end of the year he would be regarded as a top 10 quarterback, and now it's looking like he might be regarded as the worst starting quarterback in the league at this point. So two takes that I'll totally own up to and take my medicine.
So those were both things I wanted to talk about. So let's start with McCarthy against. I liked the Packers on Sunday with a big number, 6.5, because JJ McCarthy is really bad. Yeah. He's really bad. Yeah. In fact, do you know what DVOA is? The value adjust over average, that stat?
Yeah.
They've tracked since the year 2000 or whatever. So as long as they've been tracking it, they've tracked something like 852 quarterbacks.
Yep.
JJ McCarthy is now ranked 851 out of the 852 quarterbacks in DVOA since they started tracking it. Do you know who is the only quarterback that was worse than JJ McCarthy in that stat? You think of who's one of the most notorious number one pick busts in the history of the NFL.
Recently, I mean, is it Trevor or Trey? Those would be two of my guesses.
No, further back, played for the Raiders.
Oh, Jamarcus Russell.
Jamarcus Russell. Wow. Good guess. Good job. He is the only one that is worse in DVOA than JJ McCarthy right now.
That's hysterical. Yeah. Well, you know what? Look, McCarthy has not been good. It's funny because I think one of the reasons why I liked McCarthy, and I think probably why the Vikings liked McCarthy, even going back to his Michigan days, is that, he's been regarded as like a mentally tough, gritty, leader. He's got like the intangibles, but look, as much as we talk about those being important qualities in a quarterback, if you're just not a good quarterback, then those don't really matter, right? Like, he's showing that he's just not that good of a quarterback.
He's very inaccurate.
Yeah.
And his mechanics are all over the place. And, when I watch JJ McCarthy play, it makes me shudder to think that if Belichick had stayed here, that was the guy he wanted. That makes me shudder. That gives me chills. That's like, you know what I mean? It's like when you almost get in a car accident or something, think about it, and it gives you chill, right?
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I watch. I'm like, this guy was really close to being the next Mac Jones potentially here. Now, I think it's a little too early to give up on him. This is a guy who's only played 6 or 7 games. However, part of the problem with him is he can't stay healthy.
Exactly.
He was in concussion protocol again last week. So, it doesn't look good. And here's the thing. You saw what Sam Darnold did with that, right? What was Sam Darnold? He was a bust before he went to Minnesota last year. We always say, you can plug anyone into that offense and they're going to be good. Great coach, couple great receivers, good offensive line, good backs. You saw what Darnold just came up from nothing and made himself into something. And you're watching this kid. He's terrible with a great team around him. That's frightening.
Yeah, no, look, the 2 of the 3 most important boxes to check, as a quarterback, he misses the mark. Like you said, he's inaccurate and he can't stay healthy and stay in the field. And when you lack those 2 things, it's going to be very tough for you to succeed at quarterback. And especially, look, he's in a tough division. He's not exactly got a cupcake schedule. Like, he's just not doing himself any favors. I like the kid. Like, everything I hear, I like the kid. Have you heard about his alter ego? He calls himself 9. That's his
no.
Yeah. So he's got this like alter ego where he refers to himself as 9, which is because he's number 9. That's his like on the field alter ego personality. So like the kid like really does strike me as somebody like who wants to win and wants to compete.
Yeah.
But I just
100%.
He just doesn't have it right now. Not to say he'll never will, but right now he doesn't.
Well, honestly, like, fine. I agree with everything you're saying. Like, let's just say this. I wouldn't give up on him yet. I really wouldn't. But he looks awful. And first impressions count.
They do. And look, we say you don't give up on him yet, but if you're McConnell, I think McConnell's a really good coach, but he might be on borrowed time in Minnesota now after, the last couple of years and really failing to do anything, noteworthy. So how much time do they give him?
Well, who made the decision to get rid of Sam Darnold, right? I think that's something to consider too. How impactful whoever made that decision Daniel Jones to roll with this kid. Look, it's a process. And hey, if JJ McCarthy has a bad year this year, but ends up being a franchise quarterback for the next 10 years, then it was well worth it. But right now, you're not seeing any of those indicators. So you're going to need to see a really dramatic turnaround. And like every data point, every game we get where this guy's still that bad, it makes, I think, it less and less likely that he makes that big recovery. I'll say it this way. I wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't give up on McCarthy, but I definitely wouldn't feel good about the situation if I was a Vikings fan.
No, very, very tough to feel good about him. And you know what? Look, I guess, while I'm on a roll of taking medicine here, I might as well, I think probably this, I guess a little bit for both of us. And I don't want to say we're fully wrong about this, but let's stick in the division. Caleb Williams and the Bears, 8-3 atop that division, So surprising me to say the least. That Bears team is.
Williams is still very erratic, though. In all fairness,
he is.
But he's also making a lot of plays.
Yes.
You look at the talent he has around him. Caleb Williams. Now it's like, look, he should be able to produce in that somewhat in that system, he still makes a lot of bad plays, a lot of turnovers.
He does. Well, look, he's got a defense that's leading the NFL in takeaways, right? He's got one of the highest paid offensive lines. He's got great weapons. He has, one of these like young whiz kid coaches. So like he has everything around him that he needs to win. Like his job is really just not to screw it up, for lack of a better term. Like he's going to make his mistakes. Like we've seen, like you said, he's been erratic. He's made some mistakes, but as long as he just doesn't come out there and like crap all over himself, the Bears are going to have a chance to win almost every game they're in.
Yeah. And look, if we're being fair, like, yes, he's made a lot of mistakes and, he's completing less than 60% of his passes, which is not great in today's NFL at all. 16 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He's made a lot of big plays too. Like in all fairness, like he's showing, he's got upside. He makes plays, and I think that, will he be able to clean it up and pull it all together? I still think he's got a little ways to go, but he's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not, he's not Trey Lance. He's not a total, dud.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I would agree with that.
But plus we have to be impressed by the fact, like he's winning close games. Like
he is.
That was something I didn't know if he could do coming out of college.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think they've won something crazy, like 5 or 6 out of their last 7. 5 out of the last 6. So yeah, and like you said, they've been close games. So but look, if you ask me, gun to my head, will the Bears wind up winning that division? I know they're atop of it right now, but I'm going to say no. Like I don't think there's any chance that it's not either the Packers or the Lions. But we'll see. The Bears have surprised me all year, and they might continue to surprise me.
I believe the Bears have a very tough schedule too. I'm looking at it right now. They got the Eagles, the Packers twice, and at the 49ers, mixed in with a softball, the Browns in Chicago. So 4 out of their 5 games are tough games.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Niners. Justin, is you mentioned you took some medicine on that. I'm going to take medicine on that too, because I was right there with you thinking the Niners were going to step back. And I think what they've done this year with the adversity they face is nothing short of remarkable. I watched the game last night. I watched Brock Purdy throw 3 bad interceptions.
Very bad.
For all the talk about Mac Jones and his arm strength, I honestly, I watched them both play. I think Mac Jones has a way stronger arm than Brock Purdy. That doesn't mean he's a better quarterback, but I don't know. Like, at what point did the 49ers start to think about going with Mac Jones over Brock Purdy? I mean, how many more 3 interception games is Kyle Shanahan going to tolerate before they start to look at the way Mac played and just make the decision?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very difficult decision. You know what I mean? I will say, if there's an organization, a coach that will do it, I think it would be them, right? I mean, you look at the difficult decision that they made to go to Purdy in the first place after they put all that draft capital behind Trey Lance, right? And they traded up, they invested in him, and then they wind up switching to Mr. Irrelevant. So I do think if it comes down to the fact that playing Mac Jones is better for the team, I do actually trust that they'll do it. But to your point, the question is at what point does that become the move, right? I mean, I think Purdy gets a little bit of leeway. For all intents and purposes, he missed almost the entire first half of the season. So he does, I think, get a little bit of a grace period to reacclimate himself. But I would agree. I think Mac Jones played well enough. You won enough games with him that if Purdy doesn't shape up soon, I think you make the switch.
Justin, and like it's hard for me to explain what happened last night away with anything, but that was just really bad quarterback play. That was just real. I mean, you watch those interceptions; they were bad throws, inaccurate, bad decisions. So I don't know how long they stick with him out there, but I do think I called it, and I can take a victory lap for that. I called it at the beginning of the year when Purdy went out. There's going to be a quarterback controversy. In my opinion, I'll say this, and you think I'm crazy, and you can Remember, I said this. I think the 49ers are better off with Mac Jones and Brock Purdy. I really do. I think Mac Jones gives them a better chance to win from week to week. I don't think Mac Jones is Dan Marino, but I do think he got the rawest of raw deals in New England, and I think he can be a good quarterback. That 7-game streak we saw in New England in 2021, I think when you surround him with the right situation and the right coaching and the right talent, I think you can get a quarterback that can win games, that can play at that level. And I think the Niners will be better off with Mac Jones than Brock Purdy. And do you know who agrees with me?
Who?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Okay. There you go. All right. Well, look, you know what? I look, I don't hate that take at all. Two other things though, that I do think are at least worth mentioning with this 49ers team and, the game last night. Number one, because he's playing in a market like Carolina, he doesn't get a lot of recognition, but J.C. Horn, who had 2 of those interceptions, is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Like he is phenomenal. And he picked Purdy twice, including one of them where, he came clear across from the other side of the field and just read one of the routes when it looked like he had Jennings open. So I will say you got picked off twice by arguably the best cornerback in the league. The other thing is, for Purdy's going out there and, he was used to throwing to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and guys that he doesn't have right now. You know what I mean? So he's still, I think, looking to find chemistry in a connection with some of these new guys. I mean, Pearsall's been injured pretty much most of the year. I'm not sure if he played last night. I don't think he did. But, Purdy doesn't have a great rapport with some of these guys. I think he's still trying to find it.
It is amazing that Brandon Ayuk isn't back yet.
Yeah, well,
and you look at like what Steph Diggs is doing in New England, and I mean how good he's been.
But did you hear what's going on with Brandon Ayuk now?
No.
They're gonna release him. He gave up like 20-something million in guaranteed money.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's not taking part in team activities. He wants out. I think he called their bluff on something, and they said, "You're done. We're gonna release you." And so they were able to avoid like 21 million in guaranteed money.
We'll give him a home here in New England, right?
Yeah, another rehab
100%,
project. Yeah,
100%, 100%. Yeah, it's interesting how long the guy's been out for, but if he's healthy, go for it. All right, I'm going to take a victory lap on a couple quick things. Number one is I can take medicine on the fact that I took medicine on my previous victory lap. Is that how this is working?
Yeah.
But I initially said the Rams were one of the best teams in the NFC. I took medicine on that at some point around like week 5 when they had a bad loss. I think it was against the Colts, but or someone, not against the Colts. It was against someone.
49ers. They went in with
the 49ers. That's right. The 49ers. I took medicine. But the reality is I was right initially. The Rams really are arguably the best team in the NFL right now. And like, look, let's just say it. It's okay. It doesn't make Drake May any less. He's still playing terrific. He's had a great year. Matt Stafford is the MVP of the NFL. If he stays healthy and doesn't completely fall apart over these last 5 weeks, it is no contest. It is no contest. It's no one else but Matt Stafford.
100%. And I think the betting odds have changed to reflect that. I think as of right now, I think Drake May is like plus 250, plus 275, and Matt Stafford is like minus 225, minus 250. So Vegas thinks so too. And you can't deny it. And just like we had talked about, we've been looking for the staple Drake May 300 plus 3 or 4 touchdown games. Like Matt Stafford's been doing that consistently this year, multiple times. He has done that. And not only that, but the Rams are just so good top to bottom. They have weapons. They have a great coach who's won a Super Bowl. Matt Stafford is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And they have what is arguably one of the best young defenses in the NFL that's been getting better year in and year out for the last couple of years. And they're finally playing, I think, at a championship caliber level. So they don't really have a weak spot in that organization right now.
I mean, the decision for the Rams to sign Devonta Adams was a absolute grand slam.
Yeah.
Grand slam for a guy that I think a lot of us thought was washed up after just going to that wasteland that is the Las Vegas Raiders.
And then the Jets.
And then the Jets, which was another wasteland, right? Yeah. And now he goes to a good program and everything changes. Matt Stafford has 30 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Every other quarterback that has ever had that kind of production has won the MVP.
Yeah.
So
I think that's,
there's no question about it.
100%. And I think the funniest thing about it is there was questions that he was even going to be healthy enough to play this year. Remember at the beginning of the offseason,
isn't that amazing?
All the stuff
100%.
around his back, people were questioning, was he going to play this year? Was he going to be healthy?
He didn't play the whole preseason.
Yeah. There was some serious health concerns, and he hasn't missed a game, and he's been lights out. So love to see it.
You're right. I mean, it just goes to show you, like, take that preseason with a grain of salt.
Totally.
Right. Take it with a grain of salt. Matt Stafford, the Rams are falling apart. Stafford was back was broken and his career was over. Yep. And now 12 weeks later, he is literally the undisputed MVP.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. A couple other quick ones before we wrap it up. I want to talk about this Dallas-Philadelphia game from both sides. First and foremost, I can take a small victory lap on one thing I said after the Micah Parsons trade, which is that the Dallas Cowboys did the right thing by trying to rebuild their franchise from the inside out. I've watched this Dallas team for years. Receivers, check. Quarterback, check. Running backs, check. But they don't win. Why? Because they cannot control the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball. Terrible offensive line play, terrible defensive line play. What have they done this year? They drafted the best guard in the draft out of Alabama in the first round. They rebuilt their offensive line, and then they've gone out and acquired 2 premium defensive tackles, interior linemen, Quinnen Williams and Kenny. I want to call him Pickett, but the guy from Cincinnati they traded for before the season, right? So now they look how much better their defense is getting. The Cowboys look like a much better positioned team to actually, not just score fantasy points, but actually win football games.
100%. Look, I bet the Cowboys to win that game. The line was just very weird, and the Cowboys have been playing a little bit better each week. But look, that team, for them to win enough games to be a playoff team like that, I know we've talked about how historically bad the defense was in the first half of the year. That defense doesn't have to be world beaters. Like this offense is good enough. Like they can put up enough points that if they can just get average play out of that defense, they're going to win games and they're going to find themselves in a position to play in the postseason. Like, I mean, realistically, Dak and along with CeeDee Lamb and Pickens right now, they're looking like, one of the best trios in the game. I mean, we've talked about, Jamar and T Higgins and Devontae and Puka and some of the other combos out there. But it's like, look, Pickens and CeeDee Lamb need their respect. They are right up in that conversation. Like
again, that's another grand slam, right? I mean, look at the Pickens trade, and huge grand slam for the Cowboys. The Steelers, what did they get? A mid-round draft pick for him, and they put all their eggs in DK Metcalf, who really has not done much. I was underwhelmed with the Metcalf trade. I think he's lost a step going into the year. Yeah. But it was a grand slam, this Pickens thing. And this Dallas offense, they're scoring points. I don't know if Dallas has a chance to make the playoffs this year. And I saw some statistic the other day that if they win on Thanksgiving, they have a 50% chance to make it. But if they lose, it's a 4% chance. And I'm sorry, that's a tough game, Kansas City, even though it's in Dallas. My point is that Dallas team is much better positioned for the future, whatever happens the rest of this year, based on the way that they've rebuilt that roster. So we trash Jerry Jones. We trash him up and down for the way he's built that team. Finally, someone in that organization is showing some signs that they might know what they're doing with the way that team is being built. And I think you will see them be a much better team next year if they don't squeak into the playoffs this year.
Yeah. And you know what? They're fun to watch, man. I got to say, like, I enjoy watching the Cowboys games because like, for whether it's because their defense craps the bed or their offense turns the Jets on, like, you're going to see action on one side of the ball or the other, like, regardless. They've been entertaining and fun to watch.
They are always entertaining. There is no question about that, but that can be a bad thing too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's talk about the Eagles on the other side of the ball. And it's like, that's another one where, like, look, it's funny because you watch the national shows and you listen to the national shows. And, like, I get the Eagles offense has been a problem for a while now, and there are issues on that offense for sure. Saquon Barkley, not the same player. Fine. I still think the Eagles figure it out when it counts. I really do. And to me, the Eagles are still maybe the best team or the second best team in the NFL. Going on the road against a division rival and losing a tough game when everything falls apart in the second half, I don't think that should be held against them if it's just a one and done isolated thing. I still think the Eagles figure this thing out. I don't think anyone goes 17-0, Justin, in today's NFL.
No.
I'm not holding one bad loss on the road against a division rival against the Eagles. I'm not.
No, I'm not either. I will say, though, there's just something just doesn't feel right about this Eagles team. Like, whether it's been the off the field and on the field stuff with their passing game and, the fact that AJ Brown and Devontae Smith have struggled, whether it's been the fact that Saquon Barkley does not look like Saquon Barkley from a year ago, whether it's the fact that they lost a couple guys, in that defense from last year, even though they're still a really good defense, like something, I can't quite put my finger on it, but something just feels a little off about this Philly team. I don't know.
They were saying on one of the ESPN shows today that when Tank Bigsby runs the ball, he's actually doing better than Saquon Barkley. So, when you look at what's the problem is there, it might actually be Barkley and not the line is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I don't know. I got a lot of respect for this Eagles team. I think they're very good and I think they're capable of winning virtually any game they're in. But, if you ask me right now, would I pick them to go back and win the NFC and play in the Super Bowl? I'm going to say no, because I don't know what it is. I just got a weird feeling about them. I
understand that, and you're not wrong, but we said that last year, and then they turned it on and they won. But okay, the difference is Barkley was a better player last year. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I still believe in that team. I really do. Okay. I'm going to give you 3 quick takes, 2 minutes each, and then we'll wrap it up. Number one, I want to talk about the Raiders. And does anyone else think Pete Carroll is going to be one and done with the Raiders? Like what is Pete Carroll doing at 73 years old coaching the Raiders? It just looks like a mess. They just fired Chip Kelly. The first round draft pick, Genty, he doesn't look like he's anything special. I think that team is a mess. That franchise is a mess. They have the black hole in the stands. They are truly a black hole of NFL franchises. I think Carroll's one and done in Vegas.
Yeah, they're a dumpster fire right now. Look, Geno Smith has been absolutely awful. Right now, you can say Pete Carroll hasn't been at his best, but I'm sorry. It's tough to win when you get in the type of quarterback play that they've gotten out of Geno Smith. Like they have just been so bad. I think they have become a total dumpster fire of a franchise right now. And like you said, Pete Carroll, oldest coach in the NFL. I don't know how much longer they're going to have him there for. But they got a lot of holes on that roster they need to fill. Not just a new coach.
I mean, if you're the ownership and you got a huge rebuild ahead of you, is Pete Carroll the man for the job at 74 years old? He's a year older than Belichick. I don't know. I could see them walking separate ways this year. The New York Giants, Justin. Okay. The New York Giants need to bring in like a priest to bless the stadium or the locker room or something. Bring in a priest, bring in a shaman to light some sage and sacrifice a chicken. I've never in my life seen a team lose games the way the New York Giants are losing games this year. Yeah. My heart goes out. I have no love for the Giants or their fans. My heart goes out. No fans should be subject to this kind of torture. They've lost 5 games now when they've led by more than 10 points in the fourth quarter. It is uncanny, Justin.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, man. They're one of those teams. I mean, I feel like every year, you got a team that loses close games and just can't find a way to get over the hump. But like they've taken it to a new level. Like they just cannot find ways to hold leads and to win games. I mean, look, I know they're banged up. I know they just got rid of their coach. I know they got problems, but you would think even just like law of averages, one of these games they would just find a way to win, but it's like, I don't know. They can't hold it together. It's inevitable that, but you know what I will say, for a team right now that has as many assets as they do, to be in a position where it looks like they're going to get the number 1 pick or at least be very close to it, like that could actually be a great move for this team moving forward. When you think about the fact that they got a franchise running back. They got a franchise receiver. They got a franchise quarterback. They got a franchise left tackle. They got the foundation of a really good young defense. Like, if they can go out there and get a number one quarterback, they might be able to trade back a couple spots, pick up even more draft capital, and go out and add to that roster. Like, you're not in a bad spot.
No, the Giants are in a terrific spot. Yeah. I said that a few weeks ago. They're in a terrific spot, whatever happens this year. But like, look, that Giants team, they're showing they're not a bad team. You know, a couple bounces of the ball, and they're a 500 team, even in the midst of a rebuild.
Yeah. So you know what? Look, they come back healthy. They pick up some additional high draft capital and spin that up in the draft next year. Like, this could be one of those teams that goes from like going 0-5 in one score games to 5-0 in one score games next year, right? Like
100%. In fact, I'll call it right now. The Giants will be the Patriots of next year.
Yeah.
Book that.
Yeah. Love that.
Book that. Okay. And then very quickly, we got to talk a little bit about the KC Indy game. And like I said this for weeks, I know they're the 9th seed in the AFC if the season ended today. Is anyone out there really foolish and naive enough to believe the Kansas City Chiefs will not make the playoffs when this is all said and done?
Crazy. No, look, I haven't been worried about that for a split second. I know you haven't either. Kansas City is going to be in the playoffs. And not only that, but just to take it back to that Indy game, I think every true football fan in their gut knew exactly how that game was going to go. It was going to be a close game.
Yep.
Indy was going to come out and put up a fight, and the Chiefs were just going to find a way to win. And that's exactly what happened. That's what I felt from the start. It's exactly how it played out. The Chiefs are very much alive this year, and I do expect them to be in the playoffs.
I mean, the idea of playing the Chiefs as a Patriots fan, the idea of playing the Chiefs anywhere, Foxborough, Gillette, Mars, the Moon, whatever, against Mahomes and against Reed, I think is terrifying to me. And I think Mahomes is a little bit on the decline. I've been saying that for 2 years, but that just means he went from being like 100 to being like a 97.
Yeah.
He's still really good.
Yeah.
And he has experience. They have the intangibles. I do not want to see that team, but book it. They're making the postseason.
100%. Yeah, they are.
As for the Colts, Justin, you're seeing the fallback, I think, to the pack. I mean, I think the Colts are a good team. I think they will probably win that division. But I'm telling you, Daniel Jones, I still do not believe in the quarterback. He continues to prove that right. And I think when it comes down to it, you know, you've got the Titans of AFC quarterback play, your Burrow, your Mahomes, your Allen. You know, who knows where Drake May is going to fall into that? We'll find out soon.
Yeah.
I think Jones is just a step or two below that. I really do.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Look, you talk about the pressure's on now. You know, you lose that game against Kansas City, and now you're going into a game this coming week against the Houston Texans, who we were talking about are quietly one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL with that defense playing the way they're playing. I mean, that Houston defense is terrifying. In the Texans right now, I believe, are 6-5, and you got the Colts 8-3. If Houston beats Indy next week, Houston's only going to be one game out from winning that division, and now I don't think they've
played yet this year. Have they? No, they got two games.
Yet they get two matchups left. So
I mean, it's amazing to me, you know. And we should have mentioned this, but like, it's amazing to me. We haven't mentioned the Houston Texans in weeks on this podcast.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Look, they started the season off very slow. I think they started off 0-3. They were like 0-3, 1-4, and I think we kind of wrote them off. But they're kind of putting it together. That defense is absolutely elite. The O-line's holding up a little bit better. They went 3-0 with Davis Mills. They look better with Davis Mills than they did with CJ Stroud.
They did.
But you know what? That team, if that defense keeps playing the way they're playing, they should be in almost every game that they play.
Yeah, 100%. I wonder if there's a little quarterback controversy brewing down there too. I mean, Stroud has not been that good this year. Mills, I agree. I think they look better with Davis Mills, and with a defense like that, you don't need heroics. You need consistency and reliability, and you're going to win games.
Yeah, you almost wonder if they try to ride the hot hand heading into this divisional matchup, but we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see. All right, anything else you want to add, man, before we wrap it up?
Nope, that about does it. I'm just I'm excited for Thanksgiving football. full day of midweek football.
Best slate in years, probably.
I think it's a great slate. You get the Packers and Lions, then you got the Chiefs and the Cowboys, and then the Ravens and the Bengals with Burrow's return. So I'm looking forward to all three of those games. Usually on Thanksgiving there's one, if not two games that you kind of chalk it up to just being a dud, just filler games. But I'm loving all three of the games this year.
Yeah, I mean, three certainly watchable games. You could argue that Bengals-Ravens game is a playoff game for the Bengals, at least. Anyways, they have to win or they're out.
Yep, exactly.
The Cowboys winning this week makes the Chiefs-Cowboys game, I think, a marquee game because both teams now have something to play for. And then the Packers-Lions game is a great game. And I will say I love the Lions in that game.
Me too. Especially get a little revenge after the way Green Bay went in and kicked their butt in week 1. So.
Exactly. And the Lions our offense is just totally different offense in that dome at home. That's just it.
Yep.
Totally
100%.
different team. All right, man. That's all the time we're going to take. Want to thank everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great week, everyone. A happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy football. Stay healthy. Stay well. Stay safe. Take an Uber on Wednesday night. The biggest drinking night of the year besides New Year's Eve, not worth it. It's as simple as an app on your phone. So stay out of trouble, everyone. Call me. I'll even pick you up if you need a ride. Have a great week, everyone. And we'll catch you next week with another episode of the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots Pod. Be good, everyone.